Hello and welcome to the Keep It Local Maine podcast, where we interview local Maine business owners and Maine residents to learn more about what they do, who and what inspires them, and how they use those experiences to steer them into the future. My name is Todd Regalinski.
And I am Kimberly Regalinski.
And we are the publishers of Keep It Local Maine, a local magazine that helps showcase local businesses to the people in and around their communities. Thank you for tuning in to our weekly podcast that you can subscribe to on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. You can learn more about us at keepitlocalmaine.com. And also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram through the links in the show notes. In this episode, we'll be talking with Albert Latoile from the Park Danforth.
Albert is originally from Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and moved to Maine in 2004. He has been working in the senior living field for over 30 years and has held positions in activities, admissions, administration, and marketing. He attributes his affinity to working with seniors to the fact that his parents had him late in life and has always related to older folks due to his upbringing. He currently is the Director of Sales and Marketing at the Park Danforth, a very special senior living community which has been part of the Portland Maine landscape since 1881 and offers independent living, assisted living, government subsidized apartments as a nonprofit organization. Welcome to the show, Albert. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you for having me. Nice to be a part of this. I'm really looking forward to it.
So maybe you can just start off by telling us a little about the Park Danforth itself, and then how did you kind of get started there?
Well, the Park Danforth, surprisingly, it started in 1881, located at Park and Danforth. That's where we get our name from. We retained our name when we moved to the current location at 777 Stevens Avenue. Originally, we were the home for aged men, and we now serve all types of seniors, and we provide, as Kimberly said, we provide independent living apartments, senior living, assisted living apartments, as well as government subsidized apartments. I got involved with the Park Danforth, actually. I was working for another senior living company in Maine, and saw that there was an opportunity as Director of Sales and Marketing at the Park Danforth. I had toured the Park Danforth as a part of another job I had and always remembered it fondly and was impressed by it when I toured. Mm-hmm. So I thought, what the hey, I'll give it a shot. I applied and here I am.
Nice.
Wow.
So what is it that you feel makes the Park Danforth just a special place? What is it that it makes so special?
There is so much. I'm a firm believer that, and I tell everybody that I tour here and show the Park Danforth, that each community, and there are several senior communities just in the Portland area, has its own personality. And that though I think the Park Danforth is a great place, the personality of the Park Danforth or any place that someone's considering, they're all different, and some are good fits and some aren't. I think the feel and the sensibility at the Park Danforth is one of openness, one of a real sense of family, staff, residents, and the residents' families all feel like a part of the Park Danforth family. And I kind of attribute some of that to the fact that we are a nonprofit. We have a mission. And I think that really makes a difference. Kimberly, I know you have visited me here before, and I think you have to admit, when you walk in the door, there's just something you feel that's really comforting when you come in the doors of the Park Danforth.
It really is. It feels like a community. And I think that, you guys have some really great amenities too that, tell us about those, because there's especially one of my favorites is that rooftop deck.
Right. We have a couple of different areas on campus offering different types of apartments for seniors. But connecting all of that is what we refer to as Main Street. Main Street is where most of our amenities are located, including an auditorium, a theater, our life enrichment program, which schedules a full range of calendar of events on a monthly basis and organizes our van and our trips. We have a salon. We have a pub We have a market that is run by the residents. They volunteer and stock and run and order our own little Main Street market on Main Street. We have a bistro that's kind of our lunch option for meals, and it offers a lighter fare, all homemade soups, pizzas, hearty salads, and sandwiches. All that is a part of everyone takes advantage of all those amenities just by living at the Park Danforth. And the rooftop deck is a huge amenity. It's on the fifth floor of our latest addition. And being on the rooftop deck, you get this incredible view of the city of Portland. And I have to admit, you don't want to be there on the 4th of July because it's standing room only.
Oh, I bet.
I bet. Yeah.
And then you have this, the other one of my favorite parts over at the Park Danforth too, is this beautiful courtyard. You have this beautiful, beautiful courtyard that is just so serene, so peaceful. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's funny because, one of our appeals to certain people is that where we're located, and it's more of a urban setting. We're right on the bus lines. We're across the street from UNE, down the street from Evergreen Cemetery, local restaurants and shopping within walking distance. So it is a busy area, but you step into our center courtyard, and it, like you say, it's so peaceful and serene. It's a beautiful garden, including a small water pond and waterfall, a walking path, and that's where our tabletop gardens are located. So those residents that are interested in continuing to garden but prefer not to have to get on their hands and knees to do so can stand up and grow their tomatoes and basil and flowers like they have done their whole life.
It's such a great community. It really is. It feels like, I imagine that it just feels like home. Just being able to access all of those things, from being able to go to Main Street and get your hair done to going to the pub, to the restaurant. I mean, it's so great that you have all that stuff right there on site. You guys did such a great job thinking of all of those details.
Yeah. So it was funny. I was on the phone this morning with a woman who was considering moving here from another location in the country, and she was talking about the reputation of our Maine winters. And I said, well, they vary, but we do have some incredible and severe winters. But given that you can go to, like you say, to the salon and then to the theater and stop by the bistro and have a beautiful lunch, I think I could hunker down here for a couple of days without too much of a problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just the whole hair thing. I mean, just as someone who went a few months without a haircut, that
right.
starts getting kind of interesting after about week 8, week 9. You're like, you wake up and you look in the mirror, you're like, well, that's something.
Right.
Yeah.
So what would you say is your favorite part about working in senior living in general and maybe even specifically at the Park Danforth?
What I have learned, and it's actually partially because of, what we're all experiencing now with the pandemic and COVID, what I learned was what really feeds me about my work is the fact that I meet new people every day, even if on the phone. I spend most of my time building relationships with people. And that is the biggest part of my job and what keeps me so excited about what I do it's not the kind of a thing where I talk to somebody today that they come and see an apartment tomorrow and put a deposit and move in next week. I talk to people for months and months because this is a huge step. Represents a huge change for most people. And they need to know me and they need to trust me. And they should trust me. And I enjoy that whole relationship. And then once I've fostered that relationship and somebody has moved in, I see them on a daily basis. And it's like passing an old friend in the hall when I do see them. And I think that's the biggest. And that was missing when COVID came about. I couldn't tour. How much I could contact people was limited, and certainly, at least initially, when in the beginning, there were so many unknowns. There were not a lot of people interested in considering making a big life change like moving to a senior community. So my job changed, as all of the leadership did here, in providing some other kind of service so that we could deal with the current situation.
Mm-hmm. So that kind of dovetails into, what are some of those in your career? What are some of the challenges that you've experienced in your career, and specifically in the last few months? I know you just touched upon that, but what challenges do you face in this career?
Well, just I think in general, beyond the last few months, what's always a challenge is there are so many options for people. And, I kind of say, well, we don't really have any competition because we are so different, being, a nonprofit, et cetera. But, there is competition. There are lots of choices for people. So getting the word out and making people aware of how we stand out amongst the crowd is a big challenge. But more recently, COVID, like I say, for an extended period of time, my job changed. There were other needs. We had to come up with a plan, how to keep everyone safe, what needed to be done, reviewing CDC regulations on a daily basis. We had to come up with a system for providing groceries. We had to come up for a system providing meals on a daily basis, for keeping people engaged and stimulated. We all know that isolation is one of the chief causes of depression amongst seniors. So how do you battle that in a COVID environment? So there were a lot of challenges around that I had never seen before in my career that I'd have to say were probably, top of challenges I've ever experienced.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what would you, and now kind of going to the positive, what would you say are some of the successes that you've had through either just this time or just what you would count as success in your overall career?
I think that a success just in regards to recently, I think the leadership here, the staff here, and the residents, we've all done an incredible job dealing with the current situation. I think that we've been so fortunate that we are still doing so well and have not lost anyone. And, I think this certainly laid the groundwork for anything similar that should ever come up again in the future. We've developed systems and protocols and procedures, and I just feel so proud of being a part of the team here and what we've accomplished through this period of time. I have to say my accomplishments are, in general, I want to say smaller accomplishments. They're meeting somebody and, helping them and, eventually leading to them living here and starting a new life. I just feel so good about those little accomplishments as they happen on a regular basis. I still am so excited when somebody new moves into the Park Danforth.
That's great. So and one thing I wanted to circle back around and touch upon is where you are a nonprofit, people can actually, for instance, the food pantry that you have there, people could actually donate to that. So if someone's listening and said, are you still taking donations for food to the pantry through this?
We certainly would accept donations. It's not as critical a hardship now. We don't know what's going to happen this fall. I think we're all kind of waiting to see how everything pans out. But yes, we would welcome donations, and those food donations go to people that are unable to access groceries in other ways that live here. So we provide them with food items that way, based on their need. So
that's great. That's great.
Now, if someone is from two different directions here, if someone is, of course, older themselves and they're looking for a place that they might be wanting to move into for either assisted living or independent living, things like that, how would they approach learning more and kind of finding out if the Park Danforth is a right place for them? But also, how do you work with maybe people who have parents who are older and are kind of doing research for their parents, or maybe trying to start that conversation about, well, it might be time for an independent living situation or assisted living kind of situation?
Well, I think there are a number of different ways. I mean, we have a very involved website, parkdanforth.com, where you can actually go onto our website, learn everything you need to know, and even do virtual 3D tours of any of the apartments. You can currently do a tour, a 3D tour of the Courtyard. Take a look around from your comfort of home. So that's a good place to start. You can give us a call. I'm always available to talk to anybody about what we can offer them and come up with a plan to move forward. One of the things that makes us different as well is we are a nonprofit, and because we do offer assisted living and subsidized apartments, somebody can join our community and initially pay market rate for an apartment. And then if their needs change, either financially or as far as what kind of services and care they need, we have resident services department who provides in-house in-apartment care and assistance. So you might be able to, depending upon what your needs are, stay in an independent apartment with some assistance without having to move. We have the assisted living program. So if you really do need more support, we have that available to somebody who lives here. And then if finances become an issue, you can qualify. If you can qualify, you can move into a subsidized apartment. So that's one thing that people like about the Park Danforth is they're not going to be paying market price. And then if they, need something different in the future, that means another move. You potentially can come to the Park Danforth, and it can be the home for as long as you want to be here. So
That's great.
Great.
Yeah, that's great. So let me ask you this. So what would you say, who or what inspires you? And it sounds like, just even from your bio, it sounds like your parents were a big inspiration. But, if you said, who or what inspires you, what would that be?
I would have to say, yeah, definitely you're right. I think being, my mom had me when she was 42 and she had my younger brother when she was 50. So when I was a tyke and going to school events, people assumed I was with my grandparents. And so I think that certainly developed a certain mindset and made me comfortable and actually enjoyed interaction with older adults. Which I think carries me through to today. So that inspires me. I actually have, my degrees are in fine art.
Oh, wow.
So I know. So what really inspires me is the part of my job that allows me to be a creative troubleshooter. And I think that's really served me well. So some of the people that inspire me are actually more based in the art world.
So cool.
And I think the team I work with right now and the people who live here inspire me on a daily basis. I just can't speak highly enough about the people I work for and with, and the residents I work with, that what they do. I'm awestruck by them. So I think it's a combination.
That is so great. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always good when you can work with people who inspire you.
Absolutely.
Just speaking from personal experience.
Yes. Thank you, honey. Thank you.
I'm trying to make sure I'm not sleeping on that couch you were referring to before. So to kind of get away from business just for a second, we always like to kind of finish up with a question that's a little more general and just a little more Maine centric.
Yes.
And what would you say is your favorite place in Maine? This can either be a place to visit, a place to go for concerts or eat or whatever. What would you say is one of your favorite places in Maine?
Or what you love about Maine?
Yeah.
What I really enjoy about Maine is all the little communities that I love spending time on a main street in a small Maine town and enjoying the shops and window shopping. And in the summer we have first Fridays and second Fridays, and we've gotten away from the craft fairs and the art festivals this year, but they'll come back. I really love, whether it be Brunswick or Belfast or Camden or the Old Port. I mean, I really like strolling and window shopping and grabbing a coffee or an ice cream cone or getting a bite to eat. And and by the water most of the time. I just love that. I love that.
Yeah. That's, it's just one of those, we have so much to offer here in Maine, and it really is such an experience to live here,
Yes.
It really is such an experience.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Albert, for taking time out of your day and chatting with us about the Park Danforth, and also just about your history and your career and all of this. And I think I've learned a lot. I think our listeners have learned a lot. We'll be sure to put all of the appropriate links and information in the show notes, so be sure to check those out. And once again, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Albert, for joining us today.
No, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I'll be talking to you real soon, I'm sure.
Absolutely.